How's it going, guys? Welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be talking about financial freedom. So let's talk about the normal model. You go to school, you graduate, you get a job, you play the typical 9 to 5 rat race, you work until you're 65, 70, and then you retire. And finally, after 65 to 70 years, you can actually enjoy the fruits of all your labor. Now, to me, ever since I was a kid, that just didn't really sit very well with me. First of all, I don't really like the normal way anyway. But really, surely we should be in charge of our own financial freedom, and we should decide when we get to fully enjoy the fruits of our labor. Now, I know many people, and I'm sure you know many people as well, who are caught in what I'm going to describe as the rat race. And they might tell you they're happy with that, but honestly, for the most part, the majority of those that I speak to that are doing this typical route don't seem that happy. Right? Stuck working in a job that they don't enjoy, having to work hours that they don't necessarily get to dictate, not getting to take holiday when they want to take holiday, chasing bills, living paycheck to paycheck. Now, I appreciate that is a big generalization, and I get it, but it illustrates the point. There's a lot of people that are stuck, not basically in control of their own financial freedom or when they're going to be able to achieve that financial freedom outside the norm. So, the first point that I want to talk to is living below your means. Now, I know a lot of people that live what I would refer to as a champagne lifestyle on a lemonade wage. But that's just the surefire way to make sure that you're never actually saving. So the whole purpose of this, we'll just make this simple. Year one, you're earning $20,000 a year, but you're spending $10,000 a year to live. Year two, maybe your income goes up to $40,000 a year. And because of that, you decide that you're going to start living a little bit more lavishly, and you're going to spend $30,000 in expenses of living that year as well. You see what's happened there? You're still only saving the same amount of money as you were earning when you were earning only $20,000. The purpose here, that as you earn more money over time, you live below those means to actually put money away and save. Put simply, spending 100% of your earnings every single month or every single year, no matter how much money you earn, you're never ever gonna find financial freedom. So for me, I encourage people to not waste money and to not buy things that they don't necessarily need. There are plenty of options for you to be able to cut those costs of living expenses without necessarily reducing your quality of life. So for example, maybe where you live, maybe you rent, maybe you've bought, but maybe there's a spare room that you could rent out to help compensate for some of those monthly bills. Equally, maybe you could rent somewhere a little bit cheaper by sharing with roommates. There's plenty of options here, but the whole purpose when it comes down to your living space, try to accommodate somewhere that allows you to save and essentially each time live below your means. Typically, the second largest expense for most people is their vehicle, whether they've bought it, they've leased it, or they financed it. So the whole purpose here is look for different options that are more cost effective for you. Do you really need to spend all the money on a more lavish car that you could potentially still get the same enjoyment out of something that's maybe a little bit cheaper? There's also plenty of other ways that you can offset and compensate for those bills, such as renting your car out on Turo, for example. Equally, you don't always have to get the most expensive, newest car fresh off the lot. As we know, cars that come with 0 mileage, as soon as you drive them off the lot, are going to have depreciated immediately. So why not look at some similar models, but second hand with 10,000 miles on the clock, so they're still in great condition, but you've avoided that initial depreciation that would have come with buying brand new. Thirdly, we'll look at general entertainment. Now, of course, You should always still be able to enjoy your lifestyle, going out with friends for drinks, taking your partner out to the movies, whatever it might be. But the point here again is to start looking at options that are a little bit more cost effective. Do you always have to go out to the movies, or could you have a nice night in with your partner and either rent a movie or watch something on Netflix? Do you always have to go out with your friends to the most expensive bars? Could you pre-game before to avoid having to buy those $15 drinks over and over? There's plenty of options here to still enjoy your lifestyle when it comes to entertainment and having a good time, because let's face it, that's what life is all about, enjoying the process. And I am the biggest advocate of that, but there's definitely cost-effective ways of doing it. Another good example is food. Food is a big expense for a lot of people, especially if you're always on the go. So you might be eating out at fast food restaurants, you might be eating out just in general because you feel like you haven't got the time to do certain things, or maybe it just fits your lifestyle. But I'm guaranteeing that if that is the way that you're living currently, if you take a look at your bills, and a lot of them are coming in from restaurants, you could be saving a huge amount of money just by buying food at the grocery store, cooking it at home, and either taking it to work or taking it wherever you're going to go, or just eat at home a little bit more often. But you'd be surprised month on month how much money you can save by doing that. Clothes is another typical expense that a lot of people spend a fair amount of money on, but there's still again very cost-effective ways of you doing this. You'll see people doing videos on thrift store hauls all the time. You'll see great options in cheaper stores such as H&M, Zara, wherever it might be, but much more cost-effective means of buying the clothes that you want without necessarily having to go to the really expensive stores to buy them. And even then, when you do get clothes that you like that maybe it costed a little bit more money, you don't have to churn over them as often as you might think. I make t-shirts last me years. Same with hoodies, same with pants. There's clothing items that if you look after them well and they run through your fashion and keep looking stylish, there's no reason to churn over and buy clothes after clothes after clothes, because all you're going to be doing is throwing out the old stuff that you bought anyway, and all that money is just going to waste. Caveat here, I will always encourage people to recycle, especially when it comes to things like clothes, so definitely don't throw anything out. Even if it means taking it to a charity store, whatever it means, definitely recycle old clothes. Another very large expense that a lot of people can't avoid is traveling. And we obviously talked about cars and vehicles, but it might be a case of going to visit family overseas, especially in my case, all my family's still in the UK. But it might just be traveling in general. There's still smart ways to hack these things to get more cost-effective options for you. So for example, if it's somewhere that you were going to fly, could you drive, and would it be cheaper if you carpooled with a bunch of friends? Or alternatively, is there credit cards that you could pull out and use to get points for money that you would have spent anyway, but you're now going to put it on these particular credit cards that are going to give you more points? Same thing with air miles when it comes to actual getting membership cards or loyalty cards with certain airlines that you know you're going to be using consistently. Find those life hacks, and there are plenty of them, that you can benefit and max out on points and discounts by trying to get the best deals rather than just blindly spending the money as and when it comes up. Big thing that will help with all of this stuff, of course, is budgeting. Budgets will help you keep track of all of your expenses so that you can stay on top of it at all times. And this is so important. There's so many examples of very, very wealthy people going bankrupt, and largely they don't even know that it's happening until the money's all gone, because they weren't budgeting, they weren't keeping track. So that's something that I'm really, really hot on. And I am going to make a video specifically on budgeting and certain apps such as Mint or Fudget. There's loads of different great budgeting apps, some more difficult and comprehensive than others, but ultimately you need to be making sure that you're budgeting every single month and knowing exactly what you're spending on different itemized items. So let's get into that a little bit. One major thing that a lot of people find when they start actually looking at budgets and tracking what they're spending, they start to notice all of these monthly subscriptions that they didn't even realize they were paying out for, or even if they did know they were paying out for them, they didn't realize how much cumulatively they were all adding up to as a monthly expense. And so a great example of this is your Netflix account, your Hulu account, your Amazon Prime account. There's so many different subscriptions that people sign up to and they're paying monthly for, but they're not fully aware of it because they're not budgeting and they're not keeping an eye on those expenses. And so for me, it was really important to consolidate where you can. Are you even using those accounts as much as you used to be? Are you needing them as much as you think you need, when maybe actually just one would work and still suffice for what you actually need? There's loads and loads of different examples, and budgeting is the most important way to keep track of all of these expenses and make sure that you stay on top of everything. Next, I want to talk about high interest debt. Now, I'm a big advocate of getting credit cards, of getting and using and leveraging debt, leveraging loans. And I'm going to do separate videos. There's already a couple of videos about that. But you've got to make sure that you're keeping track of all of this stuff and you're staying out of high interest debt, because it's crippling and it cripples a lot of households that get into these debts and can't get themselves out simply because of the super high interest repayments that they're having to pay. So keep track of all of these and make sure that you stay out of any high interest debt. And if you have any looming, make sure that those debts are paid off as a priority over any others that are coming up. Now, the other thing to note with this entire subject is saving money and earning more money isn't going to be the only key factor to gaining financial freedom. Ultimately, you need your money to compound. You need your money to work for you. And so what that looks like largely is going to come down to investing. Typically, I would always recommend a sweet spot of whatever you're earning, immediately reinvest 20% of that. And there's plenty of different ways that you can reinvest your money. Again, additional videos on what to invest in and ideas for investing. None of this is necessarily financial advice. This is all just my opinions based on all of these subjects. But ultimately, if you can start investing just 20% or ideally more of your monthly income, whether that be into the stock market through things like Vanguard Index or Fidelity, a couple that I recommend. You could also invest in things like real estate, which I'm a huge advocate of. Again, these are very different and so need their own subjects to be discussed specifically, but ultimately what we're talking about here is finding investments that's going to allow your money to work for you and compound and grow over a period of time. One thing to note when it comes to the stock markets is that trying to time the stock markets is very difficult. People have full-time jobs trying to do this, and even then they struggle. If you note that just investing and letting the markets do what they do, for the most part, your money will compound and grow over time. This has been proven by history, and this is of course my opinion, but it's the safest way without trying to time certain peaks, troughs, crashes, and having the stress of trying to get in on certain deals that may or may not look great. If you just invest in a sensible, diversified portfolio, such as the index funds, it is likely that you will see the gains and benefits of compounding, growing finances over time. Now, I remember reading online where they were saying essentially if your income is 25 times that of your expenses, you will technically find yourself financially free. The main thing for me, honestly, when it comes to financial freedom is passive income and residual income, i.e. your money working for you. You earning money for ultimately at that point not doing anything. And there are plenty of ways of earning residual income. Investing is one that we've already talked about. There's going to be a separate video on passive and residual income in general. But ultimately, financial freedom for me is the ability to earn money and not have to be working anymore. That's ultimately what retirement is, right? But you're still earning money during your retirement. Based on that 25 times income over expenses ratio, there was a study called the Trinity study, which looked at if you pulled out 4% of your portfolio each year and are able to live off of that, essentially you can do that basically forever without losing money. Ultimately, all we're really looking at here is keeping track of expenses, making sure that at all times your income is obviously exceeding your expenses, that you're saving money, putting money away, and having that money work for you. Now, the more you can save, the more you can have growth on that income happening and the money working for you over a period of time, the better, and the faster you will find yourself getting to that ultimate financial freedom. And bear in mind, financial freedom isn't a particular number. It's a different number for everyone, depending on the lifestyle that you really want to live. But if you can budget and keep track of everything, have a strategy, have a plan, and have your money working for you over a period of time and making sure that you're living below your means throughout that period of time and thereafter, you will be putting yourself in the best possible place to achieve that financial freedom for you. So with that all said, thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope that this video was useful. It is a subject that is obviously very, very broad and very, very important, and there's so many different things to talk about within that subject that I hope we covered, for the most part, the important pieces that can relate to you. If you did find it useful, please do hit the like button, please do subscribe, check out the other videos, and I will catch you on the next one.